Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Mindset Podcast with your girl Tolufelo, aka the Bandster. So, what are we talking about today? I'm freestyling today. Today, I really just want to be led by my thoughts in this case. So, I'm just gonna share a story. Maybe it's an interesting topic that maybe a few of us can relate or many of us can relate. But I think I want to address the mother-daughter relationship. Me being as a firstborn child, being a daughter into a woman, that we at some point clashed, bumped heads. But what I've realized is that I have so much in common with this woman than I realized, and I had to choose if I want to look at her strong points or her weakness to identify what type of mother she's going to be for me. So this is what I want to talk about today. I feel like how's your relationship? Like particularly this one is just for the daughters, like your mom and your relationship, and most importantly, do you have a child and how's that relationship with your child? Looking back at what you experienced with your own mother and the relationship that you had with her. Are there any things that you have kept to yourself that you didn't want to talk to her about? Are the things that you feel like are the moments that you feel like she doesn't deserve to be part of? And those feelings, when you feel them, what do you do about that? So I'm going to share my own story about my relationship with my mom. It was very difficult because I judged her to be this person that really maybe didn't care that much for me. This is what I thought about her, because she was so strict. Most of the time she was just like on my case about so many things, and if she would reprimand me, she would use these words that now as an adult I see those were like belittling words that would make me feel less than. But because I was a child then and I didn't understand, I just received it and held it in. But my point over here is now as an adult, having to still have my mom being alive, which is such a blessing, and I thank God for that. I had to learn to let her in. But again, I had to also be in her shoe in that time to say, like, this was the first time her being a mom. She didn't have a child before. She was raised a certain way by her own mom, and she must have thought that was the way to parent, like that was the way to speak to a child, because maybe that's how she was spoken to as a child. And I experienced all of that, and when I became a mom, I realized that no, I don't want to be that. I don't want to be that type of mom who's always mean with her words, and when I reprimand, I belittle and all of those things, because that's how I was raised. And I wanted to change the narrative. I wanted to do things differently. I wanted to tell my son that I love him, and whenever I reprimand him, I make sure that he understands the reason why I do that, and just don't reprimand and punish without giving an explanation, because this is what makes us like not being able to express the emotions that come with that fear. So we had to work it out, but this being part of my story. But I just want to hear what your story is with your mom as a daughter, as a firstborn son, and maybe with your dad, like the father son relationship. Like, how is that um, going, and how has that impacted you being a parent today? How, like, how your parents raised you? Are you happy with how your parents raised you? Would you raise your children the same way? And if not, why not? And if there are things that you feel like you want to change as a parent, what are those things, and why do you think those things, the way you're doing it, is the right way? Like, what trauma are you also like impacting to your own children that you're not even aware of? Do you even know what trauma you have? Do you even have trauma? It's a lot, I know. It's a lot. But yeah, it's important to have those relationships with our parents. It's important to see our parents as not just our parents, but as people. Like, I had to see my mom as not my mom, but as a woman. So whenever I had to heal the wounds I had for myself, I had to speak to her from a woman's point of view. And this was me being a woman speaking to another woman. And it made the conversation very easy. Because if I was coming from a point of addressing my mother, I was bringing those emotions that she had inflicted on me in this discussion, and it wasn't going to work because I was going to bring all the hurt, all the pain. But for me to get an understanding, I had to speak to her as a woman. And as soon as she explained her story to me, then I could understand. Then I could have grace. Then I could have space for her. And then I could forgive, not her, but forgive myself for those feelings of confusion towards her, not knowing how to feel. But once I heard her story, then I understood her much more and appreciated her. And then I also got to realize her strength. I focused more on what was strong about her rather than what was weak about her. And my anger was coming from a point of, because I was focusing more on what was weak about her, and that triggered me. But as soon as I had a conversation with another woman, me coming from a woman point of view, now being a mother myself, speaking to another mother, then I could hold space, then I could understand, then I could heal my own wounds through what she was hurting, and me being honest about my feelings kind of healed her in some way, because she wasn't even aware of how I was feeling about her. She just thought I was a rebellious child that just was not listening and didn't care. But as soon as I expressed myself, then she understood, and from then on, it has been wonderful. It has been wonderful. Not perfect, but wonderful, because everybody owns their responsibility, everybody owns their mistake, everybody accounts, and then we start from where we are and moving forward. So yeah, it's a positive story at the end of the day. So that's what we're trying to get to. We're trying to get to a point where we end the story on a positive note, and you get to reflect and look at your own relationship with your family members, particularly with your own parent if they're still alive. God bless their souls if they've rested. But whoever that's in your position, in your power of being a parent or a guardian at that time, whatever wounds that you feel like they might have inflicted on you, you have to look at those wounds and address, especially if the people are still alive. If the person is still available, if you can still mend, fixed, there's always an opportunity for you to just, mend things and be good. And from that point of power, you can be a better parent to your own children. This is what I've learned. The more, and as soon as I forgave my mom for her mistakes, with I judged her all along because I didn't know her story. And once I heard her story, I had to have grace. And as soon as I had grace, then some wounds were healed. And from that, we can build something new, which we have done. And it has been amazing. So everybody can do it with your family, no matter how toxic the situation is. It can be fixed, because you have to own your own part first, and then be open to listen to other people's stories about yourself. Be open enough to hear the parts that you don't like to hear about yourself. Be open enough to say, okay, let me hear. Yeah, I've got anger. Okay, it's okay. I've got anger, okay? And once you open yourself up, then you get to see that, oh, okay, we're both hurt, and communication will fix everything over time. And it also it's about how open you are and how willing you are to forgive yourself and the person that you've narrated your story around. Everyone has a story. We've all built a story and narrative about our lives. We all have reasons why we can't be what we're supposed to be. We all have reasons why we can't forgive those that hurt us. We all built a story, but is the story true? And if the story is true, or what parts of yourself are you owning and taking accountability? What parts of yourself is wounded and need to be healed? And are you open enough to acknowledge that you are wounded? Most of us don't want to acknowledge that. Most of us don't want to deal. What? No, it's not my fault. It's somebody else's fault. Because how can it be my fault? Once we start acknowledging our own story and our part in the story, then the story gets to move forward. Then we get to acknowledge, then we get to heal. So the topic, again, reminding ourselves, is about just like healing our relationship with our parents, particularly you being a daughter to your mom or you being a son to your dad. that those relationship wounds that exist, we need to take accountability. Each person needs to hold, acknowledge the truth on their own side. And once everybody's willing to be open and ready, and just because you're ready, you cannot force yourself now, and you cannot force somebody else to be ready just because you are now willing to ready to talk. If somebody is not ready to talk, allow them the space, but just let them know that you are in this place and this is how you feel. And when they're ready, you are open enough to have a discussion. And it should be a genuine discussion, an open discussion, where at the end of the discussion, everybody goes out feeling like, yeah, I've added value and I've received value. And this is my child. But most importantly, this is a woman or this is a man that is calling me out on my things, and I have to be open and honest. And this is what happens. So, yeah. So let me know what you think. What is your story? What's your relationship with your mother? What's your relationship with your father? How's your relationship with your siblings? Do you forgive? Do you talk on the table? Or you sweep things under the floor? Or you say, that's not my business? Or do you even know that those things affect you on your daily basis? How you react to other people comes from those little trauma points. But I know these are deep conversations that people are not ready to talk about. That's why we have this channel. That's why we have this channel. So you can be honest and open enough, and you can hear other people's stories, and you can relate, and you can heal, and you can change your mindset to be the best, and you can continue to move forward. As we wrap it up, we want you to remember that anything can be healed, anything can be forgiven, but what's important is you have to take ownership and take responsibility for your own life, because your choices are what makes you who you become in the future, which could be right now. As we come again next time to open our minds and see if we can shift any of those mindsets, we'll see you next weekend as we come again with your girl Sulfela Bokako, aka the Bunster, healing one trauma at a time. We're out.